this computer. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce to anyone who is listening, Anne Curtis. Anne has such an interesting background. I met her just a short while ago online as a result of somebody told Anne that Chris Heath and I had written a book on relationships, and Anne was looking for all the Three Principles books for her Three Principles resources group page on Facebook. So please have a look at that group page at some point, because it's chock full of all the resources. Someday, all the resources available.
Well, yeah, and also the resources. Sorry to interrupt, but thanks.
No, go ahead.
But also in the Facebook group, there is also you can also download the first part of the resources guide. So it's a book that I've been putting together with all the resources in, and the first part of the book has all the books. That's what I was looking for your book for, the books and the videos and all sorts of things that you can get started with for free, for example, and any of the books in all the different categories for children, for business, for whatever it is that people are looking for.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to go to one place to obtain so many resources. So thank you for putting that together. And when I heard about Anne's background, I realized that I really wanted to interview her. One more interview for our book, which is basically finished, but this interview had to get in, because Anne has a background as a medical doctor, as a psychotherapist, as a sexual psychotherapist, as I guess it's called, in Jersey, where she's living. Jersey is an island off the coast of France. And I get to interview somebody who lives that far away online. So Anne has a remarkable story about how her relationship, I should say plural, shifted after she read a book. Her sister, I believe it was, gave her a birthday gift of Jack Pransky's book, Somebody Should Have Told Us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Anne to talk about the before and after, before she understood anything about the principles, and how much that helped her. Okay, Anne.
Okay, fine. Thanks very much, Laurie. Yeah, I didn't get to see the book. My sister gave it to me as a present for my birthday a couple of years ago. So it's been 2 years. About 2 years since I first heard of the Three Principles and Sydney Banks and everything that came out of that. And when I first heard about it, when I first read the book, I was in. I wasn't sure that I couldn't quite work out what was different about it. You know, I had trained in conventional psychotherapy, as you say. I had trained in conventional psychosexual therapy, and then when I'd found out that those didn't really give the results I was looking for, either for myself in my own relationships or for my clients and patients, I'd gone on to study, train in, use NLP, EFT, hypnosis, anything that I could find that I was hoping was going to give results, and of course I found that those things did have better results than the conventional approach, but they still weren't working for everyone, and you had to keep doing the techniques I found, and you had to keep doing stuff, and especially the positive thinking that I got into. You know, I was really struggling to stay positive all the time. And also I used to get quite worried until about 4 months before I found out about the Three Principles, or about the book rather. I had always worried about negative thinking, that I might be affecting other people, that I might be having a negative effect on my life, and so on. And so when the big things that came out of understanding the three principles for me were when I first realized, well, when I first read the book, I just had a feeling. That was the interesting thing, was having read lots of stuff of, Sid, or listened to Sid since, he always says it's in the feeling. And that was definitely what I noticed. The first thing that I noticed about reading Somebody Should Have Told Us was that I felt something. No idea what, but I just felt something was different and felt something was important. And the first thing that actually clicked for me was that I had, up until that point, thought that whenever I experienced uncomfortable feelings, it meant something important. It meant that something was wrong and I needed to do something about it. And I had actually taught that to numerous patients, clients. That was what I had been taught, and that's what I was teaching other people. And that was huge, because that was completely wrong. That was completely the wrong way round. And as I said, I heard Mary Schiller talking the other day about the red light and the green light for taking action on our feelings and so on. And I think this was from Michael Neal. And so what that was about was actually when we're feeling uncomfortable feelings, when we're feeling something's not quite right, or we're feeling angry or something really uncomfortable, it does not mean it's a red light, right? It's a red light, meaning it doesn't mean go ahead. It's not the green light. It doesn't mean go and do something. It means stop, slow down, just let everything settle. And then when my mind has had time to settle, then I'm open to clearer thinking, and I will much more automatically know what to do. I won't have to think about what to do. And so that was the first thing that became clear. And as soon as I started, the first relationship it had an effect on was my relationship with my parents, actually, because at that moment my mother died 2 weeks after I read that book. So at that time when I read it, I was nursing her through terminal cancer. And during that time, it was a lot easier to be closer with her, because in the long past, my parents weren't very happy when I was a child, and that had made me always be determined. That's partly why I got into being a sexual therapist and a relationship therapist, was because I had wanted to find a way to have happy relationships and to help other people to have happy relationships, because I had seen so many unhappy relationships around me. Like, the divorce rate was so high, and everyone, and particularly I wanted to help my parents. Not that I ever did, I don't think, from that point of view, but and I wanted to help myself, and I had been having, well, I'll go back to that in a moment, but with my parents, I had been angry with my mother a lot of my life. That had improved to some extent when I'd learned NLP, and I reframed and understood that, understood at some level that my parents were doing the best they could, and there was no point in being angry, and it was better to let go of all of that. And to some extent I had done, but that was all thinking about trying to change my thinking, trying to change my feelings, and trying to change my thinking, rather than just understanding, as I did after I read the book, that I don't have to do anything. Actually, I just can see that my feelings are coming from some thinking that I'm taking seriously, that actually I don't need to take seriously. It's and I can just wait for another thought to come along, and when I've calmed down, and another thought will come along. So it was just again, even though I'm talking about what I understood, it was more the feeling, I guess, at the beginning, that I just got it through the feeling rather than logically working it out. So I did read that book very quickly before my mother died, and it really helped during that time. And also, after my mother died, it also helped me to I continued to live with my father and to support him through a really hard time, because he'd never lived on his own before, and not without my mother, and didn't know what to do and how to deal with that emotionally. And I, at first, because I just learned about all of this, I tried to teach him the 3 principles, which wasn't a good idea, as I mean, it did to some extent. He did take some of it in, but I soon realized that actually it was much better to leave him on, you know, to take his own path, and just to be in my own good feelings, and to allow him to benefit from that. And also, but it did help in that when he pushed my buttons, which as you know people do in relationships, and I just didn't react to them anymore. It was just really amazing. I mean, I didn't stop and think about it. Once or twice I did, but mostly, you know, when I did react, but mostly I just didn't react anymore. The pushing the buttons didn't work anymore, because I could just see it was just his thinking, and it was just and he was doing the best that he could, and it was, and also I could see who he really was. Now that was the real biggest thing, I think, that has made a big difference to my relationships especially over the last year. The first year it was mostly around understanding where my feelings were coming from, and this last year it's been more understanding who and what I really am. Now I always had an understanding from being a child that there was something bigger than us. And at first when I was a child, I was brought up in a Christian. Well, my mother went to church, my grandmother went to church, my father didn't, but my grandmother did. And I believed in God, but I believed in God as the big power that was outside of us. And then as I got older, I decided to stop believing in God, because I thought God wasn't giving me what I needed. You know, I was asking for help, and then I wasn't getting the help that I thought that I needed. And then so I started having a more. I still knew that there was some that you know, it's impossible not to. I think all human beings are aware that there is something bigger than us that's yeah, I mean, how does life happen otherwise? But what didn't occur to me until quite recently was that since this infinite mind, or infinite intelligence is infinite, then we cannot possibly be outside of it. You know, we have to be part of it, because if it's infinite, it's impossible for anything to be outside of that, right? Including thought and feelings, and all of that is so that mind, as in terms of the 3 principles, is just the infinite being that we all are and that we're all part of. And infinite intelligence isn't something separate from us. It's again who we are. And so, as far as relationships go, that as far as I can see it, we all are. We're all part of one. So there is actually only one relationship. You know, we're not separate beings. We're human being. Well, no, we're this spiritual whole having different human experiences through different people. and through consciousness, so we experience what seems like a reality, and our different relationships seem like different realities, what seem like real, when in fact it's just an experience of reality through consciousness, through whatever thoughts we take seriously. So we all have different experiences, and once I realized that I'm just this spiritual being having then my partner is not separate from me, and you're not separate from me, and nobody's we're all having, but we're experiencing it, and that's okay. We're here to experience that, and whatever's happening in that experience is okay. I'm as a human being, I'm not in control of that. How can I be? The infinite universal intelligence is always in control of that. And so whatever's happening is whatever's supposed to be happening. And if I just go with the flow and remember that, of course, it's easy to forget that. Sometimes, it's easy in the moment when somebody says something or does something, it's easy to forget. But actually, it's less and less easy to forget that. I remember that more and more automatically without having to remind myself. Yeah. So what I've noticed, and my partner, in the past, I was married the first time, and before I trained as in any of these therapies, when I was first originally a medical doctor, and I have been a medical doctor all through this time, but before I then got additional training in therapy. So I got divorced. My first husband left me just as I was finishing my training in psychosexual therapy, and I did at the time think that was not a really good sign that what I'd learned was particularly useful for people, because if I really knew how to help people, what was that? Why was this going on in my life? And it's similarly it's, as I say, some of my clients got better and some of them had really good results, but I never really knew why. And I guess now it's because they had insights, something that, whether it was something to do with what was said, or whether it was to do with the feeling, whether it was to do with the energy and the feeling. Some people are going to get insights, whatever sort of therapy you're using, I guess. And then even more people did when I suppose, actually, now I think about it, when I was using NLP and EFT and things like that, where the results came more easily and without so much effort, I guess I was more relaxed and enjoying it more, and in a better, I was out of my thinking more anyway. My thinking was calmer, and so even more reason for other people to get insights and find out what was going on. I hadn't really thought about it that way before. But at the same time, I've noticed that people I've worked with since learning about where thought comes from and who and what we really are and how it all works, other people have got better results too in their relationships. But then, even when I got married the second time, I did so as a result of doing my NLP and hypnotherapy training, and that didn't last very long at all either. So obviously the NLP and the hypnotherapy wasn't the answer that I needed either, and again, I was still helping people, and I was, still people were getting better results, but they still weren't getting the results that I was hoping for, and I certainly wasn't in my life. I was. Plus, I was convinced that I had to have a certain sort of relationship. I had to have a happy relationship. I should be living with someone, if not necessarily married, but I should have a long-term, stable relationship. And even though I was telling my clients that that love came from inside and it wasn't wasn't coming from other people, and you didn't need other people to enjoy love and so on. I obviously hadn't really got that, you know. I've tried to get it, but it didn't seem to, for some reason at that stage didn't come to me. And even when I started, so even when I came to the three principles, I guess I was still in big part imagining I needed a relationship to be really happy. I wasn't going to be completely happy until I had this happy relationship. And yeah, so after I did, my partner says, that the partner that I've now had for several years, and we don't live together, and we have a great time together. We spend time together. We have a great time together. We have, and our love has been growing, and our relationship has been growing. And since I have been thinking in this way, you know, since I've been seeing things from the three principles understanding, he has commented lots that I have definitely changed. I'm a lot calmer, and a lot easier going. And I am, because I'm not getting at him all the time, because I used to think he had to change, or, you know, the relationship had to change. It should be this way, and he had to change to be like this, and I had to change to be like that. And I used to give myself a hard time, not just him. And since then, I don't. So now I'm more relaxed. He's more relaxed, and so he finds it much easier. In fact, he does all the things that I used to think he should be doing. You know, he buys me presents, brings me flowers, and I'm not saying that those were the things I thought he should do, but he listens, he talks, but I don't. When I say he listens and talks, I don't do what I used to do, which was in my first marriage, particularly. Well, in all my relationships, I used to think, I've got an uncomfortable feeling. This is wrong. We need to change this. I need to talk about it. And I would go, even though I found it really, really, really hard in my first marriage to talk about feelings and to talk about my relationship and so on, I was determined that's what I had to do. So I used to write letters to him until, you know, and of course he was feeling really stressed and under pressure, because I was trying to change him, trying to work it all out and analyze it all, and I'm not surprised now, you know. I think I would have done under those circumstances, but so now I don't do that. Now I know I don't need to, because I know that if I have an uncomfortable feeling, it'll go. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with him or something's wrong with the relationship. I know that that the time to act is from inspired thinking, inspiration. You know, from when I'm open, when I'm feeling good. If I'm feeling good, then I know it's okay to be acting. You know, to be doing something and then I just do it automatically. I'm doing loving things, saying loving things, and if I think of something that could be, you know, that some way that we might change the relationship, if I'm in that sort of mood and that sort of feeling, then that's fine. And he's quite happy about it. He's much more open to listening to. Originally, he used to know best. You know, he used to know how. But that was just a defense thing. I can see now. You know, it was like it had to be his way, and it had to be. And whenever I made any suggestion, it was like he was attacking me verbally. Not, you know, but it was like I felt frightened to make any sort of suggestions at all. Whereas now, like I make suggestions. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. You know, and much more open. He's much more open to new ideas and new thinking, and yeah, and he at the beginning I didn't speak to him about what the three principles were about, and he's still changed despite that. The whole dynamics between us just changed. Yeah.
You think because he felt less pressure from you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And
And
so
also
relaxed around
so
you, relaxed.
yeah. So more relaxed time, and also just the energy changes, doesn't it? Like when people talk about having sat and listened to Sid, I know you sat and listened to Sid, didn't you? And I know people talk about it like, even if they didn't understand what he was saying, they just, in fact, it was probably better when they didn't understand what he was saying, because they were just in the oneness with him. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that, but that's how it seems to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, Anne, but that makes sense to me now. At the time, I just felt so much relief that I'm not running the show here and I don't have to make things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why things get better in relationships too, because once you realize that you don't, I was all the time thinking, I've got to make this better, because I was so frightened of it being, and one of the reasons why I was so angry with my parents was because they hadn't done anything, they hadn't made it better. I'd always thought it was their responsibility and they should have made it better and they should have done something about it and so on. So now I know that they didn't. They weren't supposed to. They were just doing their best, and that even that understanding made it hugely different, hugely easier to be around them, and letting them be the way they were, and understanding that they had done the best they could. That they were doing just whatever they were supposed to be doing, and even sometimes there aren't so many times now, but I know in the beginning of the relationship that I'm in now, I was, if he was late arriving, or if he put off coming to see me, or, when we were meeting, if I used to get really angry, because I would be listening to thinking that was saying, oh, if he's not here on time, he doesn't value you, and he can't really love you, and he doesn't, and you shouldn't be putting up with that, and all this defensive stuff, really, which of course, like you say, he was then defending against that. It just is a vicious cycle. Whereas once I started realizing, well, actually, that's ridiculous, because I know that he loves me. And even if I don't know that, I know that we at the level where we're really the spiritual being, he can't be anything else but love. And he's just acting out the reality. Yeah, I love that way of seeing it. That for myself, it really helps to see it like going to watch a movie, or listen, or reading a book that you get really involved in, and you really feel the feelings, and you feel like you're one of the characters, and you're really feeling for them, and involved, and yet in the back of my mind, I still know that I can step out of that, that I'm that once I leave the cinema or stop reading the book, just put it down, the real me isn't really involved in this. And that's how I now see my experience of this reality, my experience of my human reality that seems like reality, and my human relationships and so on. I see it like the same sort of thing. It's like I'm in a virtual reality, and the real me is just knows that, and we all remember it at some level, but so the real me is just watching all of this and having this experience through consciousness and through the feelings and through the thoughts and so on. But it's not to be taken seriously, any more than the film or the book or whatever. It's just another level of that. And so it's just an experience, and it doesn't have to be good experiences and bad experiences. They're just all experiences. Yeah, when I notice if I judge them as bad or good, then then I get into more thinking and I get more involved in that, and I start to take it seriously. And actually, it's, as long as I don't take it seriously, as long as I don't take any of that thinking seriously, and I remember who I really am, and that he is part of me as the spiritual being, then what's to get upset about, really? So just enjoy the experience. So I guess that's pretty much how it's changed, which is quite a lot, really, over the last 2 years. As I say, I always knew that there was a bigger something, a bigger power, and I talk to people about that. But the biggest change, and most recently, is realizing that because it's infinite, I cannot be outside of that. Yeah, which is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful insight, Anne. That you've seen that. That's really beautiful. I love how people think, that they have to work on their relationship. That's such a prevalent thinking right now. To work on the relationship, and they damage the relationship, or they damage the feelings by thinking that there's something that has to change, and there's something really serious. It's moods. That's all it is. We're all going up and down in different moods. And if you don't take it all so seriously and just look for a good feeling. I love when Sid said that. Look for a good feeling. For the longest time, I didn't know what he was talking about. I would think, well, where do you look for a good feeling? Where do I start? Under a rock? Where do you look for it? But when you're not doing all this stuff, like working on things and trying to figure it out, the good feeling is there. You settle into a beautiful feeling.
You are the good feeling. You are the good feeling. And it's not, I think we have to be careful around that one too, because for so many years, up until this, I'd been doing all that positive thinking stuff. I'd been reading the books and going to programs and listening to programs, and I'd been spending all my time doing my best to feel good, not to find it in the way that Sid was talking about, but to make myself feel good instead of making myself feel bad. So focusing on thinking in a particular way to have particular feelings, and that works. That works to some extent temporarily. You can think about the things that you're grateful for, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what comes to mind, and you think about the things that you're grateful for, and you notice all the beautiful things in the world and what's really good, that's lovely. It's just that you can get bogged down in the effort of doing that. You can, and when you don't actually have to do it at all, it's there all the time. That's a misunderstanding, thinking that we have to find it, that we have to go and look for it. That it sounds like an active thing, like you said. Well, where do I go and look for it? It's not going and looking for it. It's just knowing it's there, and that when we understand that we are this infinite experience, this infinite blissness, I call it infinite blissness, that it's just there. It's always there, like the sun behind the clouds and the fog and all of that stuff. And it's only our busyness and our taking seriously, thinking, I must take that thought seriously, and I must take that thought seriously, that's actually in the way. If we're not taking any of those thoughts seriously, we're just experiencing the infinite blissness. Yeah. So yeah, because it still sounds like, it can still sound like, and I think that's one of the other things I noticed when I first got into watching videos and reading books and listening to people talking about the three principles, is that there were a lot of people still try to find what it is they have to do. They're still thinking and getting bogged down in the thinking about how do I think right? How do I notice that it's my thinking causing my feelings? And how do I notice? And yeah, rather than realizing that actually there isn't anything to do. And that's understandable. We spend so much of our life being taught we must do things, and we have to try hard and we have to work hard, and it's just another thought we get taken seriously.
That's so true. It's like when you were talking about gratitude, that sometimes thoughts of gratitude just come to us, right?
Yeah.
And then, but if you try to make it a practice, okay, I have to think about what am I grateful for. It's not going to come with the same beautiful feeling when it just occurs to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed this, and does this happen to you? It's happened to me that through the years of looking in this direction of within the inside out direction of the principles, that gratitude comes to me, grateful thinking comes to me more often on its own.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like magic. It's really, to me, it feels like magic. Like, whoa, where'd that come from? It feels great,
And all sorts of and not just that, but all sorts of gorgeous feelings. Like I told you the last time we were speaking about that fantastic feeling that I had when I was in a really bad state and worried about money and worried about all sorts of things, and had and was following my guidance that I needed to go. That I needed to go to the sea. Okay, and as I turned the corner, a very familiar corner. I've been around it lots of times before and come across this particular view, lots of times before. This is when I was in France, and I came around to this corner, and the ocean was there right in front of me, and I was just completely, I can feel it now, this completely overcome with this amazing feeling of peace and wonder, and it didn't look any different from all the times I'd seen it before. It was just this fantastic, wonderful feeling. And I know that's, yeah, then the only problem with describing things like that is that people then go and look for those sorts of experience, but those sorts of insights and that sort of feeling is there all the time. It's just, it comes to us when we're just not desperately looking for it, getting in the way. That's, I always say it's like when you see somebody and you're trying to remember their name. You can't remember their name, and you're trying. The more you're trying, the more you're trying, the more you're trying. It's there, it's right there. You cannot see it because you're so busy with all this thinking, and trying hard and doing all of that stuff. And if you just let go and just relax and enjoy yourself and do something else, it's like, there it is, just pops into your mind. So I think, experiencing bliss and experiencing gratitude and all of the lovely feelings, they're all there all the time. It's just we're not experiencing them because we're so busy looking for them.
Yeah, that's so great. So I'm so grateful to hear the full story from you. Yeah, thank you so much for not just agreeing to give us a story for the book, but also doing it through Zoom, because now we can share it live with people.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's It's fun to do anyway. I love doing these. It's good fun.
Yeah, it really is. Well, thanks. And I guess I'll see you on the different Facebook groups that we're on together. So also, do you want to give people listening a way to contact you, Anne?
Yeah, okay. If just in case people can't find the Facebook group, which is should be able to find if you write 3 principles resources with a number 3 principles resources group, then you can come and download the 3 principles resources essential guide, and also look at the people are posting resources all the time in there too.
And you can Facebook. It's a Facebook group.
Facebook group, yeah. And also, if you're not on Facebook and you want to contact me direct, you can do so through email at 3 principles resources. That's 3, and then number 3 principles with an S, resources with an S, at gmail.com. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Bye for now, and see you soon, I hope.
Absolutely.